Good morning. Thank you all for coming to join us today. Happy Labor Day. A great day to celebrate the working men and women who are the backbone of every community in this state, of our state, and of our nation. I'm joined here today by some of my colleagues and partners in the struggle for economic equality and for workers' justice. As the New York State Attorney General, my job is to see that there's one set of rules for everyone and equal justice under law, and there's no stronger set of allies in this effort than the men and women of New York's labor movement. So today we are joined by, thank you, Richard Lipsitz, the president of the Western New York Area Labor Federation, a progressive voice in this community every day who works for the rights of working men and women. Liz Smith, the Workers' Center project organizer of the Western New York Council on Occupational Safety and Health, who works every day to safeguard the health and safety and other rights of workers in our area. And also joining us is Flo Trippi, vice president of the Federation. She is the grand marshal of today's Labor Day parade. A well-deserved honor. She spent 30 years to the labor movement here in Buffalo as a member of CSEA and is a tireless advocate for her brothers and sisters in the community. Congratulations, Flo. I'd also like to acknowledge a few others who are with us here today. Jim Wagner, the president of CWA Local 1122. Mike Deely, the regional director at NYSUT, both of whom also serve on the board of the Western Area New York Area Labor Federation, and we're also joined by Fred Cowell, the president of UUP, all great colleagues in the effort for equal justice under law. Now, I'm happy that in a little while we're going to start marching. We'll march with Flo under her direction at the parade, and I urge everyone to stick around here and enjoy the celebration. Today is an important day because today is a day we recognize something that is an unassailable fact. As we were talking before, like issues about economic inequality and climate change, there's sometimes you have to defend unassailable facts even though there's really no argument against you. And that fact is the reason we have a strong middle class in America is because of labor unions, because of the labor movement. Everything that has been done in the last 100 years or so that improves the quality of life of regular working Americans has come out of the labor movement.
That's right.
And, you know, you can look back in history, and I'm proud of the fact that in New York State we were leaders in the early part of the 20th century in passing wage and hour laws and passing worker safety laws. A lot of things that came to be national in the New Deal were done in New York when Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt were still here, being advised by that great labor organizer, Rose Schneiderman, I might note. And so as a part of the family of labor, I'm honored to be your Attorney General, honored to be here with you today. But I want to talk a little bit about the issue that really is a national issue that we have to call attention to, and attention is being paid. I note, ladies and gentlemen, that the front page of the Buffalo News today is an article about the crime wave of wage theft that is going on all over the United States. It's also on the front page today of the New York Times. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in an epidemic of wage theft and at every level of our workforce. It is important to me as Attorney General that we call this out, and it's important that we take action. I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we've done, but the main point of our presentation today is to let the people know we will take action against wage theft. Wage theft is not any different than car theft. It is not a smart business practice. It is a crime. So we're issued a report today reporting on what my Labor Bureau has been doing in this area to call everyone's attention to different aspects of this problem and to call attention to the fact that workers need to keep speaking up. New Yorkers need to keep reporting this because there is growing consciousness among law enforcement officers all across the country, and the article in the Buffalo News details this, from here to California and everywhere in between, that we are now seeing more and more action by public officials, and I'm proud that our office has been in the leadership. We have stood up with fast food workers as they fight for their right to earn a wage that they can live on. Nationally, The average wage for a fast food worker is $9 an hour in an industry where the top executives make 1,200 times more than their average employee. That's 1,200 times more, and some of these employers in this industry don't even want to pay the legal minimum wage. So, since I took office in January 2011, my Labor Bureau has ratcheted up our enforcement of all wage and hour laws. We pursued both civil and criminal cases against employers. We have recovered over $17 million in restitution for nearly 14,000 workers. And more than $2 million in additional restitution and penalties for the state, because if people aren't paying their workers, they're probably not paying into the workers' comp fund and other things. We're not going to allow dishonest employers to line their pockets by cheating their employees. And since I became Attorney General, we've thrown in heavily on the effort to organize and support the people in the fast food industry who are working. We've secured settlements totaling almost $1 million for fast food workers, about 2,400 workers at more than 30 locations. That includes settlements with 7 Domino's franchisees who own 26 stores throughout the state, including Erie, Schenectady, Dutchess, Rockland, Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester. This is a statewide problem. Now, most of these employees at Domino's in particular didn't reimburse their drivers enough to cover the cost of delivering pizzas. Some refused to pay overtime. We found people who were being paid as little as $5 an hour, ladies and gentlemen, and we've gotten the money back for those employees. We've also been going after folks in the car wash industry, another place where people prey on workers who they think are afraid to speak up. They think that the labor movement might not be there to help them, and they've certainly been proved wrong in both of these industries. But in the car wash industries, we have found a significant number of employers trying to pay less than the minimum wage. This is something we've gone after very aggressively because it's a lot of immigrant workers who they think they can take advantage of. We've secured more than $2.4 million in restitution for more than 1,000 car wash workers. And in one of the most severe cases, we actually put the car wash owner in prison. So a lot of what my office does involves defending the rights of low-wage workers who always are perceived as the most vulnerable and easiest to abuse. But we also work every day to see that all employees in New York State are paid what they are owed. People who are just starting to climb the economic ladder, but people who are also supposed to be paid a family-supporting wage to support a middle-class lifestyle. Solid, middle-class, family-supporting jobs are vital to the health of every community, and we will aggressively pursue employers who refuse to pay prevailing wages required by law. We have gone after quite a few in this area, construction companies that are cheating employees on public works projects. We've secured over $4.7 million for workers who are underpaid by companies that refuse to pay the prevailing wage. We also, and this is very important to understand, we are redoubling our efforts and working with our colleagues in local law enforcement to make sure that employees who come forward to report labor law violations or safety concerns are not subject to retaliation by bosses. We don't want the dishonest employers retaliating against workers and seeking to suppress whistleblowers and send the message that it's not safe to speak up. So we will do what we have to do to deal with those employers. And when I was a state senator, with the support of my brothers and sisters in the labor movement, we fought to pass the Wage Theft Prevention Act, which strengthened workers' protections. As Attorney General, I'm enforcing the Wage Theft Prevention Act. We have cracked down on illegal retaliation. One of the car washers we went after tried to close down a location as a message to workers who tried to organize it. They would lose all their jobs. We stopped that. Again, going back to Domino's, we got them to reinstate 25 workers who were locked out after complaining about the fact that they were being paid tipped wages when they worked in the kitchen and they weren't ever going to see a tip in their entire careers. And most outrageously, we had to get restitution, $10,000 of restitution for a worker at a McDonald's outside Rochester who was fired actually for reporting a gas leak to the fire department. So this is the level of extreme disrespect that some employers are showing, and it's very important to understand that this is not just abusive workers. This is also seeking to gain an unfair advantage over the employers who do follow the rules and do pay the wages required and do not retaliate against workers. So this is not anti-business. This is pro-level playing field, pro-equal justice under law, and we have to enforce that law. Sometimes, in the worst cases, we have had to bring criminal charges, and we've increased the number of criminal cases brought by our Labor Bureau substantially in the last 3 years. We've obtained 16 convictions already against employers who didn't pay home health aides or day laborers or who were recidivists. They kept violating the law even after they entered into settlements agreeing to comply with it. And finally, brothers and sisters, as we build our union movement, we must recognize that in today's economy, more and more workers are not covered by traditional labor protections like minimum wage and overtime. The growth in labor outsourcing and temporary staffing is a coordinated strategy across America to erode workplace protections. But my office has found innovative ways to put money back in the pockets of non-traditional workers, and the labor movement is rising to the occasion and reaching out to non-traditional workers and doing more for non-union members than I've ever seen it do in my lifetime, and that's something to celebrate today.
More to come.
So, for example, we got over $2 million back for thousands of cab drivers who were not unionized. They were being charged illegally high rates and bogus late fees for leasing their cabs. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that we secured a national agreement with a temporary staffing firm called Labor Ready. This is a big trend in American business and something we have to be attuned to. The temporary staffing, the phenomenon that there's a company that just provides people on a moment's notice to businesses, and therefore it's not a traditional employer and usually not subject to the rules. We got a national agreement after a significant investigation to make sure that when they hire workers, that the workers get everything they are entitled to from the actual employers. They're paid prevailing wages for public works projects, paid what they are owed, a major step to ensure that temporary staffing firms are not used to circumvent prevailing wage laws. So, standing up for the rights of low-wage workers, standing up the rights for workers who are owed prevailing wages, who provide the middle-class jobs that sustain every community, criminal prosecution when necessary to send in a strong message, protection of workers against retaliation, and a reaffirmation of our commitment to provide for the rights of working men and women as we have in the United States for years by empowering them and paving the way and protecting their right to organize collectively and stand up for equal justice under law. So these are a few of the things that we've accomplished. I want to call attention to this. We're moving around the state talking about wage theft, and with your help, we're going to treat this like any other crime wave, and we're going to put it out. They're out of business in the state of New York. I thank my colleagues in the labor movement, and I'm looking forward to working with you all for years and years to come. And now I'd like to introduce a great colleague and ally in this fight who fights for workers' rights all over the state and all over Western New York, Richard Lipsitz.
Richard. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I hope everybody's going to have as good a time today as all of us up here. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to walk in a few minutes. We're going to walk about 1.25 miles to the park, and we have a picnic. We're going to even walk over to a Burger King, some of us, yep, and raise the issue that you raised. But I think it's completely appropriate, very appropriate, that on Labor Day, that we're holding this press event. This is a perfect introduction to the parade that's going to follow. And the Attorney General couldn't have put it any more clearly. For us, the theme of the parade is labor helping the community. And that's what we intend to do, we've been doing, we intend to do in ways that we've never done before going forward. We've already started. We've always done volunteer days. We've always done donations to charitable organizations. We've always taken as our basic rule, our basic reason for existence, the defense of the living standards and working conditions of ordinary Americans. It's always been it. But in the recent past, we have made a conscious decision to reach out to the community, to those who don't have the same organizational gravitas that we do, to work with them to deal with this question of wage disparity, the growing gap between rich and poor, this straight-up wage theft that the Attorney General just elaborated on. We're on the side of ordinary workers in their fight for fair wages, whether they're in unions or not.
Amen.
All right.
And here's what's so great. We have an Attorney General who is as well. which is not something that you necessarily can take for granted. So on behalf of the Western New York Area Labor Federation, we salute this report, we salute you and your work, and we are going to redouble our efforts for things like the prevailing wage, proper minimum wage, proper use of overtime for the fast food workers, for the car wash workers, and especially to stop wage theft wherever it exists. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And before we get marching, I'd like to bring up Liz Smith.
Hi. Thanks. Thank you. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Yeah. So I'm so excited to see our brothers and sisters in labor here today to lift up the voices of everyday working Americans. And I thank the Attorney General for inviting me to speak. My name is Liz Smith, and I'm the lead organizer of the Western New York Worker Center, which is a project of the Western New York Council on Occupational Safety and Health, WNCOSH. WNCOSH was founded 35 years ago to promote training, education, and advocacy for workers who felt unsafe on the job. And actually, its first victory was to help pass the first right to know law in the country here in New York State. And these are things that we can't take for granted and that are under attack in our state and in our country. And so I really commend the work that the Labor Bureau of the Attorney General is doing. Particularly in this report, we see the efforts that the Attorney General has made to end wage theft, which is a huge epidemic across the country, and many of the workers that come forward, low-wage workers, to the Worker Center are facing wage theft in a variety of ways. They're being denied overtime pay, or they're being outright not paid the minimum wage. Also, the work that the Attorney General is doing to protect temporary workers is very important to us here in Buffalo, as we see that this is a growing industry and is tied to a lot of exploitation. And so I just want to say thank you to the Attorney General for helping to bolster our efforts here locally to protect low-wage workers through the Worker Center. Thank you very much, and have a great parade.
All right, thank you. And before we all go off and enjoy this great parade, we'll be happy to take some questions.